What a Wild Spirit Brings by Lil, Chapter 33. The air was crisp and the sky dark. The men were washing in icy water from a barrel leaned against the house by lantern light. Lil was shivering just from the air. How they could stand the cold water up to their arms past their elbows was beyond her. "Mr. Snurd, would you mind going in and letting me talk with the girl?" "Of course not. I'd be glad to be inside." "Thank you." Tamrock wiped his arms on a long cloth and then grabbed a log off of a stack against the side of the building up to the roof. He flipped it on its end and sat on it. Lil copied him, and he watched her silently with hands on his knees while she sat across from him. "Why does everyone else have that thick accent, and you and Mina speak like I do?" "We grew up in Andari. My mother lives there, Elisa's daughter. I came to visit every year in the summer, and after Mina and I married, we came here. Could say we fell in love with the mountains." "Guess that makes sense." "You seem disturbed, even more so than before." "I suppose so." "Well, if you're looking for peace, there's no better place to find it than here." Lil shrugged and looked at the ground. "You've aged since I saw you last. You were just stubborn and grieving before. You're still all that and more. Not broken, but breaking and lost. The weariness in your face isn't from travel, is it?" "No." Lil didn't know why she was out talking to him. He was a stranger. He was a man, for light's sake. He nodded and watched her with those soothing eyes. He was nothing like any man she'd ever met. He was caring. I don't feel like I belong anywhere. Every time I start to feel settled, something terrible happens. I am scared to be happy, scared that happiness is just proof that something cruel is coming. I don't fit in anywhere in this whole world, and I don't know what to do about it. My mother was a woman of honor. I have none. I have nothing. I have been leeching favor from people off of her legacy. I have nothing. I have nothing she didn't give me. I just don't fit. I... Lil started crying, and the man didn't move. He sat and let her cry, and he didn't touch her. Part of her wanted to be hugged, and part of her was relieved. He just watched her tenderly and stayed with her no matter how quickly the chill was worsening. A rock for her to know was there. He was being fatherly, she realized. He must be, because her father had never been anything like him. It had to be that. I didn't know my mother's husband. He could enter the wilder, and men who do go mad. So he had to go to Shalem to fight until he died. I think you are trying to replace him, aren't you?" "No, loved ones can never be replaced. I would never presume to try. I just can't stand to see a woman suffer, no matter who she is. Just not in my nature." "You don't want me to call you father the way Mina wants me to call her mother?" "I wouldn't mind it, and I don't mind you not doing so, whatever makes you happy. Mina wants you to be happy as well. She only wants to mother you because she thinks you would be happy as her daughter. She's not trying to replace anyone either, you know." I just can't accept her. My mother's face fills my head. Would you like to see a picture of her?" "All right." Lil pulled out the book and showed Tamrock her mother's portrait. She didn't want the only face he'd ever seen of her to be the corpse he discovered on a mountainside. "A beautiful woman. Little Ashen looks just like her." "Ashen, is that his name?" "Yes, Mina picked it out. Said was so he could be like a phoenix and rise from the ashes of sorrow that brought him into the world." "She named him well. Mina'd probably love to hear you say that." Little bitter lip, frowning and wanting to cry. "You don't have to decide now. Time passes slowly here. You'll see if you'd like to, that is." "Do I have to say now whether or not I'm staying?" "No, no pressure. You will prosper wherever you go, whatever you do in life, I am sure. A woman with your will can take on anything. Haven't done much prospering so far. The past trials are just seed for a better future. And my future should be brilliant." He smiled. She tried to. She put the book back into her garments. "When I was a young man, I went to a parade in the city with my mother and Mina, just before we married. We went to see the Queen riding down the streets in a litter with her daughter, Heir." Lil tried to remain calm. He said it as if they were talking about weather. His gaze was piercing, though. "No one will come trying to hurt you and Ashen or Mina or anyone. Mornay doesn't even know he exists. Just me, and no one knows where I am, not even the wild ones. I told a Heldani named Gimp I was going to River Mountain, and that only, and only because she was my friend." He nodded, face solemn. Lil sighed with relief. It surprised her, but she did want to stay, even though she was shivering now to where her teeth were chattering, and even though she still felt out of place, she was feeling better about it. The door opened to the house and Elise called them inside for dinner. It was stew with odd noodles in it shaped like little circles with some venison steaks. Tick and Mina basked in the compliments from everyone, even Lil. Mina almost choked the first time Lil spoke up about how good it was. She was beaming the rest of dinner. After it was over, Lil started to get up to wash her plate with the other women, but Mina grabbed it and said there was no need for her to bother with it. She wouldn't let Lil help with anything at all. Tamrock seemed to notice and offered for Lil to join him in carving some little animals for Ashen. She was relieved to have something to do. Mr. Snurd sat next to the fire smoking a pipe and telling stories from his youth about catching a great bear and about his days wooing his past wife. It was warm and cozy, with Ashen sleeping in his little wicker crib and everyone busy and laughing at him trying to dance with the bear to impress his lady love. Tamrock and Mina gave their bed to the two visiting Grammies and made a cot for themselves on the floor and two smaller ones for her and Mr. Snurd. It was too late for him to go back. At first, they put her mat next to his, but she moved it next to Tamrock in the far left wall. She trusted him, even though Mr. Snurd was an old codger. Tamrock was safer. No one said anything about it.